Absolutely. Listen, you got two of those people right here. One person that doesn't want to use it, refuses to learn, and the other person that's saying, "We got to learn this.
Why,
We got to do
Matt?
this."
Matt, don't be so hard on yourself, buddy. You're coming around. You're coming around.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, today on the podcast, we have three-time technology founder and CEO of Cloud37, Mr. Jeffrey MacPherson, live from Toronto. Welcome to the podcast, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, let's start with the genesis of Cloud37. What's the name 37 represent, and how are you helping small businesses scale?
I mean, the story behind it, just for some quick context, me being in technologies for so long. So I built the first Instagram automation tool, sent over 1 billion messages on the platform, had 500 million followers, was working with the Tony Robbinses, the Nelk Boys, some pretty high profile people. I ended up losing that business to Facebook as they do. So always trying to build in blue ocean. That's just how my brain goes. This was 7 years ago. I did some dev shop work in between, but then once this AI stuff started popping up 3 years ago, actually over 3 years ago now, crazy how time flies. I was watching Shark Tank. If people haven't heard of it, the investor show. If you're in Canada, it's called Dragon's Den. And I always watch it from the pitcher's point of view. And sitting there is like, these investors don't actually do the work anymore. They built the ecosystem, they plug in business then grows. I was like, I want to do that. So started building out the whole ecosystem of what I needed to be able to become that investor. As we were doing it, I was running an AI agency. I was selling knowledge bases. Nobody knows what a knowledge base is. And it was a really tough sell at the time. I was like, I don't really care what a knowledge base is, but it's one of the most important things in the system. That's very technical. Then we were basically a custom dev shop, real pain in the ass. I was like, I don't want to be a dev shop. Nobody wants to work with clients. Like that was kind of how my head was going. So as we started to progress our own technology, and we were building this stuff like pre-Claude Code, pre-Codex, all of these things, like we were still custom building these things with the assistance of some AI. Like if we need our own system to be able to get ourselves at a client work, that means other people need the exact same thing. Our big epiphany was we built a system for a publishing company out of Australia where they were helping people write best-selling books. And this was 2 years ago. There's a lot more book writers out there now. They were teaching people how to write the books, and then they were showing them how to hire ghostwriters, and then the ghostwriters were ghosting them, and then they were getting the chargebacks and all that fun stuff. So we built a system around these ghostwriters, their processes, and their frameworks. After we built it, they launched, and they did $2.5 million in 10 days. Amazing launch. They were super happy, which is fantastic. But that there showed us if we can clean up your internal processes and we can help you run efficiently, we can also take those exact same processes and give it and turn it into a product that you can essentially sell or license. And this is kind of how Cloud37's continued to form, because the technologies do not care what the deliverable is. They care about the process that it runs on. And when you can simplify your process and extract that logic from your A players, your business will scale regardless what you're doing. And that's the hardest piece that people are not unfortunately grasping right now, just because they're getting sold everything and anything from the gurus on the market.
When we're talking to small business owners, because we're in the advisory space, we're in the lending space, right? We have a process, a series of questions that we ask them,
Yep.
right? And then all the information is in our heads and our team's heads, right? That we trained on.
Yep.
So as we're asking these questions, like, what's your credit score? Is it, if we know automatically, if it's above 650 or below 650, we know what basket to put it into.
Yep.
So your team's going in and extracting the data out of all the decision makers' heads and making it a digital process that filters through everything.
Yeah, I said 2 years ago, one of the most broken processes in all of our businesses is the onboarding process. Because a salesperson closes, they're excited, they've got their commission, and then fulfillment's like, well, I don't have the information yet. Like there's never really somebody who owns the onboarding process. Like it usually is like a Google Drive or an email or something like that. But that information is extremely valuable. So one really good example for what you're talking about, in the example, like we were just working with one of our clients, is the onboarding process is important. But what we start with is what is the strategy or what is the deliverable that we're trying to come up with from the information collected. Because it's called reverse engineering, but if you can give the system the final result, it'll help you work your way there. So it's like if we can prove whatever that deliverable is, doesn't really matter what it is, that's great. It'll also give us a clear picture on what questions we need to ask, because what we also need to do is we need to standardize the questions that we ask. So every time a client comes through, the deliverables correct. Because a lot of the time it's like the two of you would ask similar questions in different ways. But AI doesn't do random. It's predicting the next thing. So if you ever seen like your text messages or in your email, that predictive, like it's guessing the next word, that's all AI is doing. It's just predicting the next thing. People think that it's this amazing technology that can do everything. It can't. It's really dumb. So the more that you can standardize things, the more easier you can train it, the faster it will predict, the better the results you're going to get.
That's awesome. You say that AI exposes broken businesses, and it makes them more broken. I guess if you're going to speed up a broken business, it's going to fall apart, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think usually breaks first when a founder goes to automate everything?
The thing that breaks first is typically somebody's ego. Their business isn't as good as they think it is.
Besides that,
that's always a good one. So with the people, it's like, because we've dealt with this over the last couple of years, everybody thought that they were getting replaced, and that's not what we're here for. AI isn't going to replace people. It's just going to expose the processes or the people that shouldn't have been there anyways. Because a lot of time in a business, we have dead weight, a lot of dead weight, and we keep people because we want to do things, but there's a lot of stuff that is just unneeded. So it's like when we start building those processes, and it's different for everybody, it's like, what is that final deliverable and how do we do it in half the time? And in that, you're going to start seeing where some of these things are breaking. The hardest thing that we've seen is still human adoption, because people are so stuck in their ways and they've built these habits over X amount of years that they have to essentially follow a new process. And that's why we like to use the Henry Ford analogy. They used to build cars before he came around, and then he standardized the process to be able to make more of the same car faster. That's essentially what he did. So what typically breaks first are the people. I'm not kidding with that. It's true, because people either want to adopt it or they don't. And adopting it is like, this is a new process that's going to make your life easier. And if you don't want to buy in and do the additional work in the beginning, you're not going to be here long enough for it to grow.
Absolutely. Listen, you got two of those people right here. One person that doesn't want to use it, refuses to learn, and the other person that's saying, "We got to learn this. We got to do this."
Matt, don't be so hard on yourself, buddy. You're coming around. You're coming around. Jeff, can you give us an example of, without giving us the name of a company, but give us an example of a company and an industry that had these issues pre-Cloud37, and what were you able to implement, and what did you see at the other end of the tunnel?
This is a unique one. I like the ones where the efficiency or the unlock was not where they actually thought it was going to be. Those are the ones that really excite me. So we're working with a financial client, and they have the very specific tax strategies and all this fun stuff to be able to help people save more money. They work on like the wealth world, and they're working with some pretty high profile people. Collecting that information has always been a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. We had to build an internal system, because the only way that they could scale is if they had more advisors that understood the process. Pretty straightforward. But it's like teaching those people, impossible, just literally impossible. So we spent months training the CEO, the COO, and their processes in their system. And it's super nuanced. It's like in the finance world and what they're doing, I have no clue what they're talking about most of the time. When they get there, it's like all that stuff in his head, he doesn't even realize that he's got it. But now what they have the ability to do is create these strategy reports without having to teach the advisor all of the things. Because where we're looking at it is like it's education through execution. So as they do it, they're learning the thing, because it's more important for the execution than the education. Unfortunately, people don't want to learn anymore. Like they just don't. People just want to get to the result as quick as possible. So they're able to start scaling their advisory side to be able to deliver more strategies, which then turned into more clients, which was great. And this was all internal. This isn't something that they sell as a product. Now, where the real unlock was, and this is what I was mentioning not too long ago, their salesperson and the person that onboards these clients, he didn't follow a script. There was information here and collected here and transcription here and all that fun stuff. And we standardized for him the onboarding process, because now we knew what the deliverable was. We knew what we needed to collect. He knew what he needed to ask. But it also made the client's life easier because he could pre-send them information before a call, so that he ran through basically a checklist. You can do the call however you want, but we need these points. Then all he has to do is take transcription, throw it in the system, upload a few documents, and then the advisor has everything to do the work that they need to do. So the unlock was actually on the sales side as well as the advisor growth side. They're both unlocked at the exact same time.
Jeff, is the unlock a meticulous attention to detail on the gathering of data and implementing the processes, or do you create a replicatable format? And let me give you an analogy to help explain the question. Is the three of us can be given the same ingredients and we can be given the same recipe, but we'll make three entirely different tasting results.
Yep.
How do you take an advisor with a financial services that is so niche and so specialized and then end up with the same result over and over again? Because there is that human touch and risk aversion.
The deliverable doesn't, the client wants the deliverable at the end of the day. How you build those relationships, what AI can't replace, these conversations, these connections, that needs to be continued to build with your clients. That 100% is still there. There's still a white glove service. Why businesses don't scale is because they're given all the ingredients and told to go make it on their own. But that's not how you scale. It's like, no, you're going to follow this exact, there's the process, and then there's the reasoning behind the process. Like the baking and cooking is slightly different. It's a really good analogy for sure, because you can kind of get to the exact same result. But with that, let's say you work with a chef. I could go cook a steak, and then a chef could cook a steak differently. But his reasoning behind why he would cook because the deliverable is cooked steak, medium rare. That's the deliverable. That's what they want. But the reasoning for him to cook it at 200 degrees for an hour and a half, and mine to just crank the fucking heat to be able to get to the same thing, because I don't want to do it. We got to the same result, but it's two different processes. His reasoning is what separates him as a real chef, and me just being able to cook a steak in my house.
Claro.
So, but here's the thing. When it comes down to trust, right? You talk a lot about the trust economy. And what you just said, AI can never replace relationships. AI can never have talks like this. Well, at least not yet, right? There are some, like if you use Google Notebook or something, you can actually talk back to a podcast. Pretty cool app. If anybody never used it, go check it out. Anyway, it can't sit around the table. It can't have relationships, right? It can't break bread with somebody. But if we're all putting out these expert reports, everybody is now an expert getting the same report, because these systems they've read the best courses, all the best books in the world. So the deliverable is the same. What changes? How do you know who to trust anymore?
Well, I mean, this is where building those relationships and having community and having more of a white glove service is what's going to separate you from all the noise. Like people, the problem, and where experts can be. The thing that I like about AI, it's also going to expose the experts for who they're not. Like there's a lot of people who sell a lot of shit over a lot of years because they could get away with it. But if you don't know the reasoning behind the output, then it doesn't really matter. I could generate a financial report and give it to somebody and say it's true, and they might not believe it. But a real financial expert is like, this is completely false. Like that. So there's that aspect there. The relationships are the most important. This is why the white glove service is still going to separate you from everybody else. So an example with that, we work with a content agency where they're building they've done their internal processes, they're building their app, and now they have a done with you service. They're looking at, and the shiny object was like, there's a content system there, and there's a content system there, and there's a content system there. I was like, one, you're going to compete against people who've raised $40 million to build these things. It's like, you're never going to compete. And at the end of the day, you don't want to bucket yourself in another AI deliverable where the service is not there. People, the pendulum's coming back where people want the result, but they also want the support. They want that human connection. They absolutely do. And when you can find the balance between both, to be able to get them what they want, what they've paid for is the deliverable, as well as the support, the education, and the trust aspect to your doing, that is the hardest piece to acquire. For me, it's when I teach our clients, it's the intangibles that become tangible. That's the quote I like to use. Because to your point, everybody can build everything. Woo! Everybody can build everything. But the intangibles are what will keep people long term. Anybody can sell anything. It's one thing to build it, one thing to sell it, two, but it's really hard to keep people. And keeping people is relationships. 100% all day, every day.
100%.
I totally agree with that. I mean, but it's the same thing. You put 3 CPAs in the room, you give them one set of tax returns, they're all coming out with different results. And then they're going to argue about who's better. You just got to pick something. But when you throw a Chat or a Claude in the mix, and then you put your tax returns in there and it says something totally different, it's just more confusion in the marketplace.
Jeff, you mentioned something earlier, and we've totally overlooked it, but tell us a story on how one of your prior companies got zucked by Facebook.
Yeah, the good old Zuck. So my first business was 12 years ago now. I'm 33. I've always been in technology. I've always buying the new iPhones. I was always in the technology space, but this was like pre-Amazon, pre-influencer marketing. I mean, it wasn't pre-Amazon, but it was like most people using it. And I didn't know about drop shipping at the time. So I had manufacturers. I took all my schooling money and I found some manufacturers in overseas, and I got phone cases made. So brought them in. They were very unique. And I didn't have it. Once they landed in the basement, I was like, well, shit, I don't know how to market, and I don't have a budget to market. So, and this is what I teach. This is how I've been able to bootstrap all my businesses as well, is what is something that you own as a commodity. It could be product, it could be time, it could be knowledge, it could be whatever it may be, to be able to exchange for something that you want from somebody else. That's really what it is when you don't have money, because anybody with money can market. I was trading product for shout outs on Instagram. So I was trading my cell phone cases for shout outs on Instagram, and it took off for me. Again, it was very, very niche. That being said, my DMs were blowing up. Kids, people, new phone case, new colors, all this fun stuff. How do you keep up with it? And I couldn't do it. There's got to be a better way. Classic entrepreneur. ManyChat, if you're not familiar with ManyChat, it was an automated messaging tool on Facebook. That's where it started. So I seen those as like, well, Meta owns Instagram. It's coming to Instagram. It's coming. I don't know when, but I'm going to be the first. So I hired an engineer, no clue what type of engineer, why I needed an engineer, or how it was going to be built. And we started automating messaging. I built it in a way where, you remember, and it's not really like that anymore, but 7 touch points. You follow up with somebody 7 times and then they potentially buy it. Remember that whole nonsense that used to be around? So when somebody followed you...
1 second. What do you think it is now? It's not 7 touch points anymore?
255,600. I don't know. It's a lot of touch points. It's a lot of touch points for sure.
There's more stimuli.
Yeah. You got to take them to dinner. There's a whole bunch of touch points that you got to do now. When somebody followed you on Instagram, they would send a message and then it would follow up 7 times. The problem with that was it would hit a rate limit is what it was called. So after so many follows, you couldn't send any more messages. Where our epiphany was, and the complete unlock on how we figured it out, when somebody replied to that message, the messages kept sending. So in us, it was like, well, is it them just giving us approval that we can send them messages? It's like some sort of technical unlock that they've now replied that we can send the message. So we instantly stopped sending messages on follow. And you see nowadays comment X for Y, direct message me X for Y. I was the first person to try that on Instagram, and it worked. 50,000, 100,000 messages per day on these accounts, slinging direct messages. We were getting 95% opt-in rate and 85% open rate. Insane numbers. These brands were printing money. And that's where we had 1 billion messages sent. We had over 500 million accumulated followers across all the accounts, working with some of the biggest brands. And then we hit the perfect storm. Cambridge Analytica, the first Trump election, all of these fun things came in at the exact same time. And technically what we were doing in Facebook's, on Facebook's side, we were a third party. We were running it. I was trying to get the official API. It's like build the biggest portfolio that you can. So when they come, because it's not if, it's when, you can potentially partner with them. And that wasn't the case. So we ended up losing that business overnight. You got 15 engineers, hundreds of clients, thousands of users, like campaigns. It was a dark place for me for a few months.
So once that happened and you found out you got shut down, what was your first move?
Go to the bar.
Good move.
Yeah, I was in a dark spot. Truthfully, I was in a very, very dark spot. It was a very tough time for me. I ended up transitioning the business and running it more as a dev shop for a bit, because people still wanted to build technologies at the time. Because like, the people who were on the platform, was like, sucks to suck. You refund as many people as possible, and unfortunately, you just kind of take that one in the chin. Then we were running the dev shop, whereas like we were building apps, but like everybody wanted to build the software until they started to build it, and then they didn't realize how much it actually costs. How like it's not like a course where you build it once, it lives forever. And then that didn't work. So then I ended up making the decision to shut the business down. I was living in Vancouver at the time. And this was one of the biggest eye-opening experiences for me, because as business owners, you build up that ego. It's like, well, I don't want to fail. I don't want to go through all of that heartache. People will judge me. And the one night I called my parents and just like completely broke down. I was like, I just don't think I can do this anymore. And I was like, okay, we'll just move back home. So it was like, to me, it was like admitting defeat, admitting failure. And once I did that and I shut the business down, you could probably guess how many people cared. Not one. Nobody cared.
Your parents.
In terms of cared that I shut it down, that I failed. Nobody cared. So to me, it's like, one, it exposed the real friends. It really did. And two, showed us like, just because you have to potentially take a step back doesn't mean that you can't move forward. And as soon as I got back home, I was working, just figuring it out. I had basically no money to my name. I had a friend call me. He's like, I know that you do this technology stuff. I know that you have experience in marketing. I'm doing a project on crypto.com. We're gonna get a partnership with them. Can you help me do it? It's like, you have to pay for the developers. So I took all the last little bit of my money and I paid for my engineers. We built the project, partnered with crypto.com, and we sold it out in 2 months with zero paid advertising.
That's awesome.
And you're back.
God works in mysterious ways, right?
Yeah.
A window closes, a door opens, you know? And that is one thing AI will never know. It's the relationships that you make and you keep along the way.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was a friend that called you because he knew what you were doing prior, right? Relationship capital is the only form of capital anybody should ever worry about, in my opinion. With that being said, we want to respect your time. Thank you for being here. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on the socials and find Cloud37?
At Cloud37 AI, www.cloud37.ai. Simple domain. What we joked about before. It's one thing to have a brand name, but another thing to find the domain that goes with it. The the other aspect on the socials, I mean, any of them, if you search me, I should pop up. If you YouTube me, you might see some of my hockey highlights. So that is me. I was a bit of a meathead back in the days. But Instagram's an easy one, Jeff.MacPherson, but I'm pretty well everywhere.
Jeff, thank you so much. Last question before I let you run. What model do you like the best?
They do so many different things. We primarily use Anthropic, but we some of our clients, like, we can orchestrate the LLM. So in some of these systems, we're using Anthropic for one thing. It's like using Google for tool calls and then OpenAI for this. So we have the ability to not just be bound to one LLM. And that's me getting shut down by Facebook. It's like, hey, I don't want to be bound to one LLM, and I don't want my clients to be bound to them either, because they're so good at so many different little things.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with your experience, you know better than anybody. You can't just be reliable on one avenue and one path.
Eggs in one basket.
Have redundancies.
Jeff, one last non-business related question. You get to play a hockey game, and you can pick any players in the history of the NHL. Name those 6 players that you would pick on your team if you were the coach.
Well, I was in a McDonald's commercial when I was a child, and Wayne Gretzky was on the ice, so I'm not going to pick him. Okay. Scott Stevens would be a cool one, because that's kind of how I used to play. That's a good question. I've played with Connor McDavid.
Who's your goalie?
I played with Connor McDavid. He's special, but I don't want to pick him. Goalie would be maybe Brodeur. I really like the way that he played, that really hard,
Good.
aggressive.
Spoken like a true Canadian. Okay.
Yeah,
so you got Brodeur.
Okay. Stevie Y. Yzerman would be a good one.
Yep.
Damn, that's a tough one. That's a lot of names. Bobby Orr would be super badass to be able to get it.
Okay, so you're missing 2 wingers. Come
on. Let's go more this day and age. Brad Marchand. I do like him as much as people don't. And I can't think of another one.
I'll throw in Pavel Bure, okay?
Okay, that works. Yeah, that's a good one.
Pavel at his top.
Yeah, at his peak.
Jeff, thank you so much. Everybody, that's a wrap. The Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.